My favorite class at Royalmont was our speech and debate class with Dr. Roca a couple years ago, I think. It was my junior year, maybe. That class was awesome. We just were able to talk about things that were really important to us and kind of explore our interests within an academic setting, which was really cool. And it was really interesting to hear all my classmates kind of talk about the things that they were really passionate about and learn to explore them. My favorite class at Royalmont was our speech and debate class because it was so interesting to hear everyone kind of learning what they were passionate about and being able to share that with the rest of the class and arguing for it, which is a skill that everyone needs. I did take dual credit and CCP. I took my CCP at Miami Middletown, so like 30 minutes away, which was really nice because I got to leave school early every day and go down there, so I had a lot of fun with that. In my experience, my school, I haven't actually tried to get them to accept those, so I don't know if you want me to talk about that. Yeah, they're really weird about those because they have such a high bar, but yeah. At Royalmont, it's very clear that the teachers are invested in every student and want the best for all of us. And I've seen the relationships that I've had with them continue even after I've left school. Mrs. Gladden was my history teacher for many years, and my 8th grade homeroom teacher, actually, which was fun to see her come back. You don't care. Mrs. Gladden was my 8th grade history teacher and had continued on that role after 8th grade. And she was able to nominate me for an award called the Billy Michaels Student Leadership Award at the National World War II History Museum, which is a mouthful, at the History Museum. And it was great because she knew who I was and was able to nominate me for that personally instead of in a larger pool of a big school where teachers wouldn't necessarily know even much more than my name. And at college, I've seen the importance of having a connection between student and teacher, as I realized that I am much less nervous than some of my peers to approach a professor and ask an important question or just get them to know who I am beyond my name. At Royalmont, it's clear that all the teachers are very invested in the individual students, which allowed them to write me very personal letters of recommendation, which I don't think I would have received anywhere else. And those letters helped me make it to Notre Dame, and now that I'm there, it's been really interesting to see how much more comfortable I am interacting with my professors, as I notice a lot of my peers are kind of afraid to approach them, but I already have a basis of having a connection with my teachers, so it just makes sense for me to go ask them the important questions that I have. The mission of Royalmont is to form leaders, and I feel like I've become a leader here because of the small size and the ability of me and all my peers to just take anything we're interested in and follow it. The mission of Royalmont is to form leaders, and I feel like I and all my peers have developed as leaders here because of our ability to take anything we're interested in and follow it. It's easy to be a leader at Royalmont because there are no barriers. You're able to just take anything you're interested in and run with it. And it really helped me develop my own personal passions. Royalmont is a Catholic school, but it's so much more than just that. It's a place where you're able to develop yourself, develop your thought, develop a worldview, and ultimately decide who you're going to be. Royalmont is a Catholic school, but it's so much more than just that. It's a place where you're able to develop yourself, develop a worldview, develop your thought, and ultimately decide who you're going to be. At Royalmont, I wasn't taught what to think. I was taught how to think and what questions to ask in order to get to the thought. At Royalmont, I was not taught what to think, but rather how to think, and I was able to use the critical thinking skills that I was taught to ultimately understand the greater complexity. No. At Royalmont Academy, I was taught how to think critically, which is important because I've heard from so many people that the greatest transition from high school to college is going from being taught to circle A, B, C, or D to actually having to think about problems and the answers that you're going to come to. But for me, that hasn't been a transition that I've suffered in because I already knew how to think. Royalmont Academy taught me how to think, not just what to think.
Okay. Say it again, but just stay looking at me.
Okay. Royalmont Academy taught me how to think, not just what to think.
My favorite thing about Royalmont is the wonderful things that we do here. We get to go to Mass, have see how we do things here, good teachers. I learned so many things on even about the cultures of the United States of America, and I just like it so much here. When I received a blue card for book reports, I've been doing book reports. It's like a competition for doing as many book reports. I got second place, and I received a blue card for that. Prayer assembly. First, we do the prayer, and then you sit down, and then one of the teachers comes and say a little bit about it, and then you're called up, and then they talk about what you did to get the blue card, and then you receive the blue card, and then you can go and sit down. Science is my favorite subject. My favorite subject is science because I just get to learn about magnetism, simple machines, electric magnets, electricity, things like that, being safe from electricity.
The aspect that Christ is placed first in all that we do here at Royalmont is really paramount to our decision for being a Royalmont family. As a Catholic family, it can be very challenging to raise your children consistently with all of the secular influences and everything just kind of coming at you. So we have found Royalmont to be a place of consistency, of constancy, of virtue that allows us as a family to try to work very hard at our faith formation. And even though we're here to get our children onto the next level of education, and ultimately it's about picking a school for your child's academic growth, we see as a family that that can't happen successfully if it's not also coupled with their spiritual growth. So the focus on God and virtuous behavior as part of every course, not just one religion class. And I think that's really been something very important to me as a mother, to know that religion's not just one class period of the day, that it's interwoven through all aspects of class, and it's not just, we started class with a prayer. It's the fact that when they're talking about history, or when they're in the science lab, or maybe even at math class, the formators look for those opportunities to talk about how choices that are made, maybe in the context of a historical discussion or lesson, or choices about creation, or in biology class, or maybe again going to the math idea, that all of that is impacted, that it's not just about the textbook ideas and concepts, but in order to be a successful learner, it's also thinking about the consequences of different things, and really thinking about virtuous behavior and action, and thinking about how God has allowed all these different things to be possible. So for me, I've really appreciated that Royalmont's approach to a Catholic education is not just a class period and a weekly mass, that it's an attitude, again, a mindset that everybody adopts. Everybody is a formator here, even our desk receptionist who interacts with the children on a daily basis. Everybody is helping to form that attitude, that mindset of serving others before ourselves, serving God. And I think that's been very important. It was actually through the preschool program that I learned the simple acronym of JOY. My preschooler, Molly, at the time came home and explained to me that JOY meant Jesus, others, yourself. What a simple concept, but for me, I found it so profound. And as a Catholic adult, was actually a little caught off guard that I had never heard that before, even though I had gone through Catholic education from kindergarten through college. So it's those little touches, the nuances, I'll say, that come up in the day that really help to empower my children to be the young men and women that God is calling them to be. One day, my preschooler came home when we were a relatively new family at Royalmont and shared with me this idea of joy. And is joy as an acronym, and it simply means Jesus, others, yourself. And I was really caught off guard by that because I had never heard that acronym used before, and I really found that to be. So one day I was picking up my daughter from preschool, and she shared with me a very simple lesson that they had learned that day, and that was this idea of joy. And joy was more than just this happiness. It was actually an acronym that stood for Jesus, others, and yourself. And I found that to be such a profound concept. And it was so easy for her to grasp that she really could understand the depth of our Catholic faith in just one simple word. So something that's been very important to me as a parent is realizing that at Royalmont, religion is more than just one class, that it's not just religion class a couple times a week in Mass, but it's the fact that our Catholic faith is woven into everything they do, from biology class to math class to history class. And that really has allowed my children to have a deeper sense of their faith, that it's not a subject that they learn, that it's actually behaviors that they live out in their lives. It's actually behaviors that they live out in their lives. The small class sizes have really been beneficial for my children as they've been growing up. It has allowed each of them to have a very individualized learning experience while still being part of a class. But because the classes are a little bit smaller, the formator then has the time to really get to know the child and get to understand their learning styles. And certainly for me, even as a parent of just 3 small children, it's very interesting to see how different all 3 of them are in the way they approach their schoolwork and in understanding what motivates them to want to be successful. So the small class sizes has been very beneficial in their learning. When I think about our family's journey here at Royalmont, and it's still continuing as our youngest is a first grader, so I'm very excited to think that we have many years still as part of this community. I often reflect on, again, the attitude about all the staff involved in the formation of the whole person, of the student, of the coming back to the 4 pillars. If I were to invite a family to come check out Royalmont Academy, I would want them to understand that they're not just sending their child to a school to be stimulated intellectually, but they need to be ready for the fact that their child is going to be stimulated spiritually and emotionally, and that there are opportunities here for their physical formation as well. And I think approaching that holistic learning with a child is very powerful and really allows the child to be successful as they grow and develop into a young adult. One of the unique aspects of our school is the fact that we don't call our instructors teachers, but we call them formators, and that really highlights this idea that when we look at a child, it's not just about their intellectual development, it's also about forming them as a whole person. And I think that really separates us from any other school in the fact that we see the teacher, the formator, as having the ultimate responsibility in the school for those students in front of her to help them not only achieve academic success, but to also grow spiritually, emotionally, and physically too. Okay, so one of the aspects of Royalmont Academy that my husband and I really appreciate is the integral formation, that we're forming the child in the 4 pillars with the support of the formator, the teacher in the classroom. And that partnership allows us to achieve a high level of success in forming our child, because there's a consistency happening not only in the classroom but then also at home. And because of the small size of Royalmont, there's opportunity for us to really get to know the formator personally and communicate with them about some of the needs or strengths and weaknesses of our child that really empowers them to be a successful learner.
So the community at Royalmont is what sets us apart. it's the reason why I had to come back. When I went to teach at that other school, I couldn't get Royalmont out of my head. I was thinking, like I said, of my coworkers. I was thinking of the students, the wonderful students that we have, and the jokes and that relationship that you have built with them for 2, 3, 4 years. The parents, I mean, you get to know the parents just as much as you get to know their child, which is part of the formation there. You really get a quality conversation between the parents and kids because you are kind of like your own little family. Like the parents know that we are solely invested into these children and making sure that they do their best work and they become the best versions of themselves. And I see our community as more of a partnership with the parents. And we know you love your kid, and we love your kid not just as much, but we love your kid as well. And we want to work to make sure that we do the best by them. And so the community here, you know, it takes on a different word, community. It really is. When you see that the teachers and the parents and the students in the hallway, it's like your extended family. It's like a bunch of cousins and a bunch of, you know, second cousins, and it's just a lot of love. And that is what I missed when I was away, and it's the biggest factor for bringing me back. Faith is also integrated in our other core subjects. You don't just learn the faith in theology class or in religion class. It's also incorporated throughout. So in history, a way that I do that is we look at past examples of the church, and we determine, you know, do these actions uphold our beliefs now? Do they adhere to our beliefs now? Are they different? Have we strayed before? And what's the reason that we stray? History is all about the study of humanity. You know, the times we go down the wrong path, what led us there, what temptations. Well, that's real easy to work in your faith. Though our faith is divinely inspired, it's based off of Jesus, we do have humans controlling the wheel. And so we have examples in the past where we have steered wrong. And the kids want to talk about that. They want to say, you know, just because we've made mistakes doesn't mean, you know, we're bad people or it's a bad religion. But to have that critical thinking of this is the actual action we should have taken based on our beliefs and our faith, this is what we should do in the future. And without reflecting on the past, without recognizing where we have slipped up at times, you wouldn't have that focus to the future. And it strengthens them in their faith because they say, you know what, we want to be better, we need to be better, we are better, we need to truly live out our faith in all these ways, but recognize the times where humanity kind of slips from that because they put other things first. They have another focus that shouldn't be there. So the mission of Royalmont is to form Christian leaders, students that not only are leaders where people are drawn to and they can, you know, rally a group of people for a cause or set a good example, but that good example, that cause that they're rallying people for, have a Christian motive behind it. And it's all give the glory to God. Help others, treat others as we like to be treated, and that's our main focus. And that's why we do a lot of things like the missions projects or the apostolic projects every month. It's to get them used to different ways, applicable ways, that you can be that Christian leader in your community. So that when you leave Royalmont and you go beyond, it's second nature to you. It's already who you are. And that's our goal.
Second grade is fun. Second grade, we do multiplication. We have a story each week. We have 12 spelling words.
Our kids don't just go to school here, they thrive. Our kids don't just go to school here, they thrive at Royalmont Academy. What I love about Royalmont Academy for my children is that the faith it permeates. They don't need a separate religion class because it's in every single subject from English to history to math to science. Faith is throughout.
The most important aspects in the education for my children, I think, would be twofold for me. It would be academic strength, so that I know my child is being challenged and being pushed to their fullest potential. And then faith formation, because we are sacrificing to send our son to a Catholic school. And so it means a lot that the faith formation is really solid for him to truly benefit from being in that environment. My oldest son, Matthew, was a graduate of Royalmont Academy in 2018. He transferred to Royalmont as a junior from another area, Catholic high school, and he loved the small environment of the school. It allowed him to do so many things that he couldn't do at the other schools. He was captain of the basketball team. He started running cross country and other things like that. He also received a lot of academic help, and he was really pushed by the faculty. Through the academics at Royalmont and him being pushed, he was a National Merit finalist. Being awarded National Merit finalist allowed him to go on and pursue college scholarships. He was awarded a presidential scholarship, which was full tuition, to a Catholic university, Benedictine College, which is out in Kansas. So he is very excited about the education that Royalmont gave him and leaving a good legacy for Royalmont in the future. So through the academics at Royalmont, he was awarded a National Merit finalist, which then allowed him to pursue being a presidential scholar at Benedictine College, which is a Catholic university in Kansas. So our son Matthew has just finished his first semester at college, and he was so excited. He was recognized for being on the dean's list and is just really pursuing academic excellence and has really meshed with the culture there, and I really think Royalmont helped with that and that background that he has and that solid foundation. There's so much I could say about Royalmont. It has been such an incredible gift to our family. It allowed my boys to truly become who I feel God is calling them to be. One is only a freshman, so he's not quite there yet, but I really feel like it opens the doors to so many things for them. It allows them to question their faith in an environment that's teaching the true faith. It allows them to be pushed and excel academically while still allowing them to really be who they are. And it allows them to participate in things that they may not have ever done in a bigger school. So Royalmont, I think, is just, it's a great place for so many people.
My favorite thing in my class is drawing. I like being here with my sister. When I go to the playground, I like to swing. I like to go on the slides, go to the gym. When it's a rainy day, we like to ride our bicycles. When it's rainy, I like to ride my bicycles in the hall.
That's a good statement. One of the things that makes Royalmont Academy unique is the deep Catholic identity that we have. We try to offer an age-appropriate Catholic education to all the students, so that's starting in preschool all the way up through high school. We try to offer an age-appropriate Catholic education to all the students, starting in preschool all the way through high school. We offer an age-appropriate Catholic education to students, starting in preschool all the way through high school. Each month we have a virtue of the month so that the kids can focus on a certain aspect of being a good Christian, being a good follower of Christ. I think one of the things that makes Royalmont special is that we don't just teach the faith to the children. We, as teachers, and myself as a priest, we try to live the faith joyfully so that it becomes something that they don't just know, but they love. One of the things that makes Royalmont Academy really special is that here we don't just teach the students the faith. We, as a faculty, we try to live the faith and share it as something that they will come to love themselves. It's not just learning, it's learning by example. We try to pass on the faith to them that way. As a priest, I just try to be here as a priestly presence for the kids. I remember when I grew up, I went to school, we had a priest who would come and visit every once in a while, and it was really neat to be that close to someone that special. So I try to be that for the kids. I try to be an approachable priest, someone who they won't be afraid to go to confession with, someone who they won't be afraid to ask a question of. I just try to be present for them. As a priest, I try to be a presence here at the school for the kids. I remember when I was growing up, there were a few priests around, but it was often hard to speak to them or hard to get their attention. Here at Royalmont, I just try to be present so that the students won't be afraid to go to me for confession or to ask me a question or just to say hi. I think there's a beauty to that, to becoming friendly with priests. I try to visit the classrooms regularly, each classroom, so that I can talk with the kids, share in their activities. We've got a squeaky chair. My goal as a priest is to help all these kids get to heaven. So I want to share the faith in a joyful way. As a priest, I want to be someone who shows Jesus to them, who reveals Jesus to them, who teaches them what it's like to have a friendship with Jesus. He's not just an idea, but someone who's really their friend, someone whom they know. So when they leave here, they have that crystal clear, that Jesus is someone I can go to any time, that he's the most important person in my life. That's what I try to share with them. I think Royamont's special in the sense, too, that it's not the kind of school where you have bullies. You don't have to worry about getting beat up. You don't have to worry about bad language. It's a place of peace and joy, I'd say. Not that everyone's perfect, not that we don't have our scuffles or issues at times, but there's just a goodness and a joyfulness here that it's quite special, quite unique. Yeah, and even the church teaches that the primary educators of children are their parents, not the teachers. So we here believe that the parents, once they drop their kids off at the door, their responsibility doesn't end there. We're here to help the parents teach their kids to raise them up in the faith, but just help. So one of the special things about Royamont is the parent involvement in everything. We don't want parents who just leave everything to us. We want them to be part of everything we're teaching their kids, especially their faith. Because if we're just teaching them here at school, it won't be real. They need to be practicing it at home too. They need to be living it as living examples for their children. There's so much confusion, and there's so much confusion in this world today. So when kids go out into that, when they enter college, sometimes they're like boats without a rudder. They're just totally adrift. They don't know what's north, south, east, west. They don't know where they're going because everyone's telling them all these crazy ideas. What we tried to do here is to try to anchor them in the truth. Truth is not something that changes. It's one. It's always one. Jesus Christ is the truth. He's the rock upon which we can all build our lives. And without him, we're hopeless. So I think as formators here at Royamont, our goal is to help these students become young men and women who afterwards can go out into the world and not be afraid at what comes. Much will come their way, but they'll have the tools to face those things, and they'll know who they are, and they'll know what's important in life. They'll know that Jesus is their king, that he's their guiding star in everything. Truth is not something that changes. Here at Royamont, we want to equip our children so that when they go out into the world, they'll have the tools they need to see through the lies that often come their way. They'll be able to judge for themselves what is truth. Our world today seems to be questioning everything, and we want our students to be able to go out when they graduate and be able to think for themselves. So we teach them that truth does not change, that their identity as Christians is really who they are. There's a lot of confusion in our world today, and we believe here at Royamont that truth is not something that changes, and so we try to equip our students so that they'll know how to face the questions that people throw at them, so that they'll have a firm identity as children, sons and daughters of God. That's who they are, and that never changes, no matter what people say, no matter what people think. We try to teach the faith in an age-appropriate way here at Royamont. So for instance, I go to the preschool and bring my little plush Mass kit, and I teach them how I celebrate the Mass with these little plush Mass toys that they can play with and touch and feel, and I explain everything to them. Then in kindergarten, we try to have Masses where I teach them throughout the Mass, a teaching Mass, where I explain what's going on. And in first grade, the homilies are at their level, very simple, and as they grow, we try to give them faith formation that's appropriate to their age. I was ordained a priest 5 years ago, and I've been chaplain here at Royamont ever since. It's a great job. I love it. I've been helping out at Royamont Academy for 8 years, and I must say it's my dream job. Being chaplain at Royamont Academy is my dream job. In my opinion, it doesn't get any better than this. My favorite thing about this job is coming here every day and seeing the joy that these students have and helping to nourish that joy, helping to increase that joy, helping to bring them to Jesus a little bit more in everything they do. I was ordained a priest 5 years ago, and I've helped at Royamont for about 8 years now. I'm chaplain now, and it's my dream job. Couldn't get better than this. I try to be present at the school events, whether that's poetry presentation or an award ceremony. I'll give blessings, I'll talk to the students. I try to visit their teams when they're practicing for sports, as well as when they have games. I try to be present there and to be a priestly presence, a religious presence for them.
I love to talk about Royalmont Academy and what I think is different about Royalmont than that neighboring schools and the schools up and down 71, which is where I sent my children to school. Here at Royalmont, we have a virtue of the month, and it's so easy for the teachers to help the children develop by using that virtue of the month to help them realize why it's important to be good, not only to be good just for the teacher, but for Jesus. And they grow closer to Jesus by using the tools that the virtues teach us. So it makes it so easy. And it's easy to reward, and it's easy to get excited about, and it's easy to sing about, and it's easy to see the joy in the children as they gain that virtue. I did have my son start at kindergarten here when I started, and then I brought him back for 7th and 8th grade because I felt like it was the best formation before he went off to high school. And he went to St. X High School, did very well. Yeah, I know, sorry. Before we had our high school there. And so it did lead to a wonderful formation for him before he went off to high school. We incorporate faith into all the subjects that we teach by recognizing the dignity of each of the little souls that we're teaching and also that we're learning about. So, did God create all the flowers exactly the same? No. Did he create all of the students exactly the same? No. And so it's easy to relate what we're learning and the dignity of what we're learning about and bring it all back to God. Our mission here at Royalmont is to form Christian leaders, and it's so fun being on the foundation of that. What I do is I have a list of jobs in the classroom, and as the children go through the year, they get to switch jobs, and I get to see really the jobs that they perform well at, and we talk about the dignity of the jobs and human work as dignity. And as the children then switch jobs and don't need to be reminded anymore of how to do their job and how to take care of our classroom and how to sweep and how to straighten the desks. And I just see little Christian leaders forming. And it's just a wonderful feeling. And I know that I'm passing on little Christian leaders to 2nd grade at the end of the school year. It is great to have been part of the lives of some of the children that I've known over the last 20 years and watch them grow up and graduate from 8th grade and then stay here and then graduate from high school. I'm so impressed by all their work that they've done in college, and I love hearing from them and seeing them come visit and giving giant hugs in the hall to different kids that have come in and surprised us. And it's so fun to introduce them to the little 1st graders and say, can you believe this person who's 6'4" used to be in my classroom? And see their eyes get real big and trying to imagine themselves as that person. It's been wonderful watching children not only go on to 2nd grade, but then grow and go through the years and grow as Christian leaders until ultimately they are graduating from our high school and out in the world transforming the world. It's been such a pleasure of mine to see the children grow and go from 1st grade and through all the grades until they're finally Christian leaders in 7th and 8th grade and then high school. And before we know it, they're out in the world transforming all of Mason and their neighborhoods and their colleges. And really, it's been wonderful watching the children not only become Christian leaders in 1st grade and 2nd grade and then through 7th and 8th grade and then going on to high school and leading our assemblies and our different functions out through field trips and activities that we do here at Royalmont. But then as they go on to high school and the world beyond, they're really transforming society. And it's so wonderful to hear about everything that they can and will be doing. And when they graduate from Royalmont Academy, they're out there transforming their neighborhood, their friends, their college, and society. And when they graduate from Royalmont Academy, they're out and they're transforming their neighborhood, their friend circles, their college, and society.
Royalmont teaches its students with every class that we should be able to see Christ in everything. And that is, like, with everything that goes along with Royalmont and everything that Royalmont teaches, Royalmont does a great job of showing where Christ is in everything. Okay. My passion with Royalmont is that it was one of the greatest times of my life. At first, when I started high school, I felt like I was getting robbed of a few things. And going into it, it was kind of like, wow, we don't have a lot. A lot of people don't understand what the first starting classes really went through, like the freshman, sophomore year. But we had some classes that were homeschooled, some classes that weren't. What I really want to tell people now is that there was so much that went into this back when I was in my sophomore year, that just to see where it is now, it just makes me proud of what I was able to accomplish here and what everyone as a community has been able to accomplish. And being able to witness that in college just inspires me to want to graduate college, get all of that out of the way so that I can come back and give back like so many people did who gave me what Royalmont was. When I graduate, I would like to come back and fill any holes that Royalmont has. I could coach, teach, I'll do anything for the school because it's done so much for me.
My favorite things about Royalmont are that all the relationships that you can make here. Because we're not a very big school, and that's something that makes people sometimes upset, to be honest. But the great thing about having a small school is that you know everybody. So I build friendships with the preschoolers even though I'm a senior now. Okay, one thing that I like about Royalmont is that we're a pre-K through 12, so we kind of we do a lot of things together. One example would be the Thanksgiving meal. We had separate and we put each other we're all mixed together. It's not high school, grade school, preschool. It's I sat next to this small this preschooler, and we just had a conversation about who can eat more. My favorite class at Royalmont is, I think, my history class, because I learn a lot. It's not just write down the material and I forget it 5 years down the road, because I feel I would remember all the stuff that she taught me. I'd recommend Royalmont to other families if they're looking for a very faith-based education system. If one thing I would learn from Royalmont in all my years is that Jesus is the way. If there's one thing that I've learned in all my years of Royalmont, it's that Jesus is the way.
We first looked for private school because we wanted a Catholic education. We wanted our children to not just learn about religion as a subject. We wanted it to be something really threaded throughout their day and a part of their whole lives. And I just appreciate the character formation that happens here as well. They're really not just concerned about your kid getting straight A's. We recently had that report card, fantastic academic scores, and then here's the areas you need to work on in your character formation, and it's just done in such a beautiful and uplifting way. We absolutely recommend Royalmont to other families. Because it's been a great choice for our family. We love the community. We love the faith formation. I love that my kids have an opportunity to do both academics, athletics. They're in the play after school. There's just an opportunity for them to develop their whole person and have really beautiful sound guidance through every aspect of those things. Any family that's considering a Catholic education for their kids should take a look at Royalmont Academy. We are a beautiful community. It is a joyful place. It's a place where you're gonna grow in your faith, and not just the kids, but I think the whole family is pulled into that. It's a place where I'm confident my kids are gonna have good, solid friendships and not be challenged by some of the crazy things that are going on in our world right now. At Royalmont, we call our teachers formators, and that's because we expect them to form the whole child. So that means that they're not just worried about your kid getting an A in science and math and reading, but that they also want to make sure your kid knows how to be a good friend and how to be a faithful follower of Christ. I always say they set a high bar. I mean, it's not an easy thing to respond well and do well in academics as well as your relationships and your service to others and in all areas of your life. But it's a high bar, but the teachers are they're loving and encouraging, and they lift the kids up to reach that. And as a parent, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody who is going to love my child as I do and expect more of them than getting test scores. Formators have a way of loving our children just like we do, and it's a beautiful partnership the way we work together. I think there's a misconception that this school is very rigid, and that's not the word that ever enters in my mind here. I think that there's some high expectations in a beautiful and loving way, that you treat each other with kindness and that you are fair to everyone, but I don't think there's ever an unfair expectation of kids being kids. I mean, they play at recess, and they love the things that all their kids love. I just think the influence here is also the faith formation side isn't a scary thing or overwhelming thing. It's a joyful thing. And so, yeah, they're going to talk about vocations, but my kids are far from perfect. And I know that no parent here would feel that, we're better Catholics than anyone else or better Christians than anyone else. I think we're just trying to partner with someone who's going to help teach our kids how to love others and be good human beings.
Yeah, so before every class we pray, which that's just kind of a simple thing that we do. It's just a good way to start out your class. Just ask for the Lord's blessings upon the class. And so we do that, and then just kind of, it's pretty subtly woven. Obviously, like religion, that's all about your religion and faith and stuff. But then as far as other classes go, it's more like just like the morals of our religion are kept up, and we can have discussions about that. And yeah, it's just a good, it's not necessarily that we specifically talk about our religion in the other classes, but it's just kind of like an atmosphere that's in the room that, you just know that everyone's pretty confident in how they feel. Faith and formation in my education is very important. That's one of the main reasons I chose to go to Royalmont, because I wanted that. It was through 8th grade. Obviously I've been Catholic my whole life, but I never, all of the different co-ops and things I attended usually weren't Catholic because they're just harder to find. And so I loved the academic aspect of it and the friendship aspect of it, but I was still missing that faith aspect of it. And so I chose Royalmont because I felt like I could get all three of those things. I could get academic, I could get social, and I could get the faith part of it, and it could all be in one place. And so I was just really happy to come here because I just knew that was every day that was going to be a part of my life, getting to go to Mass weekly or even more than once a week, and adoration, and just have religious speakers and vocation panels, and there's just so much that I don't even realize that I would not be getting anywhere else. So I would tell a student who's considering Royalmont for high school that you should definitely come shadow, just see what it's like. There's no way to really know what it's going to be like until you just spend a day with it. You could come to all the open houses and still not know what it's truly like to spend a day at Royalmont. And so I encourage you to come try a shadow day, even if you go in with the attitude I don't think I'm going to, just do it. You're not going to regret it. Just try it out and you'll see how welcoming that it is. You'll see how welcoming Royalmont is to new people. You just get thrown into the mix and you're just involved even in one day. And I would say just pray about it. There's so many options, but if you feel like Royalmont's the right fit for you, just make sure you feel like that's what God's calling you to do. And just don't hesitate.
In my classroom, I like to do religion.
Yes, so I am the coach of the Kurtamen team that we have here. Kurtamen is essentially Jeopardy, but with Latin language and history, Roman mythology, history, Greek mythology and history. And the students who participate in that are obviously our Latin students, which is a good portion of the school. And we have local Kurtamina, or competitions, wherein schools in the locality will come together with their Kurtamen teams and essentially have a little Jeopardy competition. And Royalmont has done very well in the past local competitions. Our novice team, which is the lower level, maybe the 7th graders to maybe the Latin 1 in high school, 9th graders who are just introduced to Latin, they have gone to the final round in all of the competitions that we have gone to, which is a wonderful feat. They're doing extremely well. I'm very proud of them. Our intermediate team, still building. We accept new members frequently, as often as we can. I just want to get the kids participating and, to show their passion. Our intermediate team has gone to the finals a couple of times, and they are our most experienced team as of this time. We don't have an advanced team just yet. We're getting there, though. But the kids enjoy it. They love being passionate. They're always really great sports about it. They really set the bar for how to behave and how to showcase their knowledge, and whenever we go and compete with the other schools. With Latin being a holy language, with many mass parts set in either Latin or Greek, it makes a whole lot of sense to incorporate Latin and faith and intertwine them. What I mean with that is that we will pray often in Latin at the beginning of every class, and we will incorporate the ideas of the church, the mass parts, into the Latin roots and what we get out of it, since we have mass every so often here. We have mass often. And with it being a very sprawling discipline, we can learn a lot by incorporating faith and the Latin language together. Right, so towards the end of the year, most of the Latin students, I should say, they participate in what we call a Roman banquet, where we have chariot games and gladiatorial fights. But apart from the fun, action-packed things, we also feast like Romans. We bring in food, and we share in stories and theatrical tales, and we get to really kind of live like the Romans and culminate all of the things we have learned in class into a day experience as the Romans would have. The most important aspect in the education of my students would really be the formation. And I say formation because forma is a Latin word which means shape. And shaping the students to grow academically, spiritually, apostolically, and in maturity is what really sets us apart from other schools, and how we reflect our mission statement in not only ourselves, but our students. Formation comes from the Latin word forma, which means shape, and our duty is to shape our students and mold them in the way that we would want them to live as Christ would have. With their ability to be shaped like this and how we want them to be shaped, they can grow not only academically and mentally, but spiritually and in maturity. That growth and formation, I think, is what sets us apart from most of the other schools. The students use their creative side, their creative brains in class a lot when we talk about translation and academic parts of the class, and how there's a lot of philosophy in Latin. With the structure of the Latin language and the history behind it, students are able to create their own interpretations and therefore apply it to how they see theology and logic. And Latin lends itself to that, being the kind of academic structure that it is. outside of class, my Kurtaman students, my Kurtaman teams, they have done a wonderful job in trying to put together their own Latin club. We're trying to get that started. And apart from wanting to do Kurtaman and being competitive, they also want to have a lot of fun and enjoy the ability to know Latin on a more entertainment level. And we would watch movies and get snacks and have fun and create our own themes for discussions. So their brains are working on multiple cylinders, and that's what I love about my Latin students.
If you look at Matthew chapter 13, the parable of the pearl of great price, it's how I compare Royalmont. If we look at Matthew 13, we can compare Royalmont to that pearl of great price. If you look at Matthew 13, the parable of the pearl of great price, we can think of Royalmont in the same way. The pearl of great price. If I had to tell another family about Royalmont, I would tell them that this is the best school for their children because of the way that they are being formed, the community of believers that are here, and the formation and the support of the religious community. Royalmont was originally founded by homeschoolers who had small classroom settings, and that tradition continues today. And the intimate class sizes that we have really optimize their learning and their ability to ask questions and explore learning for what it is. One of the things that's really great about Royalmont are the intimate or the small classroom settings. It gives the children an opportunity to ask questions and delve into what learning is all about without being scared. One of the advantages of our small classroom setting is that the formators have the opportunity to customize a learning plan for each child in a way that helps them learn best. Royalmont, being a smaller school, really gives us a great opportunity to participate in a variety of ways and